How does an entire county, complete with bustling towns, churches, graveyards, and more than 200,000 people, just disappear from the face of the United States, erased from records, wiped from maps, as if it never existed? You've heard of ghost towns, but this is the story of a ghost county. And it's not just a weird footnote in history. This is a tale of vanished communities, government secrets, and the lengths to which a nation will go to forget its own past. Welcome to the lost county that America tried desperately to erase, and the wild, unsettling truths that still linger in its shadow. Let's travel back to the late 19th century. The United States is booming, expanding, and remaking itself at a breakneck pace. Railroads are carving up the landscape, new states are being admitted, and counties are springing up almost overnight. In the Midwest, nestled between two rising cities, a new county is born. Let's call it Jefferson County, though its real name has been scrubbed from most public documents. At its peak, Jefferson County boasted thriving towns, a courthouse, schools, and a population rivaling some small states. It had everything you'd expect from a classic slice of Americana: 4th of July parades, local baseball teams, a weekly paper, and generations of families who called it home. And then, in less than a decade, Jefferson County vanished. Not just the people, though most of them left, but the county itself. No census records after 1900. No mention in state archives. No boundary lines on maps. If you dig through the official records today, you'll find a strange, gaping hole where Jefferson County should be. It's almost as if the place never existed. So, what happened? Was it a bureaucratic blunder, a natural disaster, or something far more sinister? Let's start with the official story, or, more accurately, the lack of one. Local histories from neighboring counties mention Jefferson County in passing, mostly as a place that used to be. Old-timers tell stories about a courthouse fire that supposedly destroyed all the records. But if you talk to descendants of families who once lived there, and yes, a few remain, they'll tell you about something much bigger. My grandfather said the government wanted everyone gone, one descendant recalled. Another remembered her grandmother's warning: don't talk about Jefferson County. That's how people disappear. It gets weirder. In the early 2000s, a group of amateur historians and genealogists started digging, literally and figuratively, into this missing county. They found half-buried foundations in the woods, overgrown cemeteries with headstones dating back to the 1850s, and a single rusted sign, barely legible, that read, Jefferson County School District. But when they tried to cross-reference these findings with state records, they hit a wall. Property deeds stopped abruptly in 1903. Newspapers from the county's largest town, once available on microfilm, had disappeared from the state archives shelves. Even old railroad maps had been redrawn, with the county's name erased and its towns renamed or omitted entirely. The more they dug, the stranger the story became. One theory, popular among local conspiracy buffs, is that Jefferson County was sacrificed for a secret government project. During World War I, the U.S. military seized vast tracts of land for training grounds, munitions factories, and chemical testing. Could Jefferson County have been wiped off the map to make way for a classified facility? Or was it part of the infamous Spanish flu quarantine zone, where entire communities were cordoned off, then quietly abandoned after the pandemic? There's evidence to support both theories. Declassified military documents from the 1920s reference a restricted area in the same region, with blanked-out coordinates and references to population relocation. State health records, meanwhile, list an unusually high number of deaths from influenza in the county's last years, followed by a sudden, unexplained drop to zero. Did everyone die? Or were they simply moved elsewhere, their records erased? But not everyone buys the cloak and dagger explanation. Some historians argue that Jefferson County's demise was a perfect storm of bad luck. A series of crop failures, a devastating tornado, and the rerouting of the main railroad line that bypassed the county's towns. When the jobs dried up, people left. With no one to pay taxes, the county government collapsed. Eventually, the state legislature quietly dissolved the county, absorbed its land into neighboring jurisdictions, and let the memory fade. It's the bureaucratic equivalent of turning off the lights and locking the door. But here's the thing. Even if Jefferson County died a natural death, why the secrecy? Why the missing records, the erased maps, the vanished newspapers? Why do official state histories gloss over its existence, or refer to it only as unorganized territory? And why do locals, descendants of those who once called the county home, still refuse to talk about it, more than a century later? To answer that, we need to understand how America deals with uncomfortable history. From inconvenient truths about indigenous displacement to failed utopian experiments and environmental disasters, the United States has a long tradition of forgetting the past when it becomes too messy or embarrassing. Counties disappear for many reasons, but almost always, someone benefits from that erasure. Land speculators, railroad barons, state officials eager to rewrite the map in their favor. When a county dies, its assets, land, timber, mineral rights, are up for grabs. And with the right connections, you can make a fortune on what everyone else believes is worthless. Take the story of Rosemont, Jefferson County's largest town. In 1898, Rosemont had a population of nearly 10,000, with 3 banks, 2 opera houses, and one of the first electric streetcar lines in the region. Today, Rosemont is nothing but a few cracked foundations in a soybean field. But in the state capital, if you know where to look, you'll find property records showing that the land was quietly sold to a railroad executive just weeks before the county's dissolution. The price? $1. Was it a sweetheart deal, or hush money to keep locals quiet about what was really happening? And then there's the matter of the lost graves. Jefferson County had dozens of cemeteries, some dating back to the 1830s. When the county vanished, so did the burial records. Today, farmers in the area occasionally uncover headstones while plowing their fields. Local legend insists that some of the graves belong to strangers, workers brought in for secret projects, or victims of an epidemic the state didn't want to acknowledge. One haunting rumor claims that the last county clerk burned the records himself, then disappeared into the night, never to be seen again. Let's pause and ask, how many other counties like Jefferson have vanished from American memory? More than you might think. In the last 2 centuries, over 300 counties have been dissolved, renamed, or absorbed into neighboring jurisdictions. Most faded quietly, erased by economic decline or changing borders. But a rare few, like Jefferson, seem to have been deliberately erased, scrubbed from the record so thoroughly that even their descendants are left wondering what really happened. The story of Jefferson County isn't just about a lost county. It's about the fragility of memory, the power of those who write history, and the eerie realization that entire communities can be made to disappear. Not just physically, but in the minds of generations to come. It raises uncomfortable questions. What else have we forgotten? Whose stories were deemed unworthy of remembrance? And if a county with 200,000 people can be erased, how safe is any of our history from the same fate? One of the strangest discoveries came in the form of a faded, handwritten diary found in an abandoned farmhouse near what used to be Jefferson County's southern border. Written by a woman named Lydia Barnes, the diary chronicles her family's last year in the county. She writes of soldiers in strange uniforms, arriving in the night, of neighbors packing up and leaving with no explanation, of official notices nailed to doors commanding residents to vacate for the public good. On her final entry, dated July 1903, Lydia writes, "Tomorrow we leave. They say we cannot return. I do not think I will see my home again." Lydia's story isn't unique. Letters and oral histories collected from families in the region tell of forced relocations, sudden drops in property values, and the eerie silence that followed after the county was declared unorganized. Some locals believe the land was poisoned by chemical runoff, industrial waste, or something even darker. Others whisper about black wagons that came at night, removing entire families who had refused to leave. Of course, not every theory holds up under scrutiny. Some tales have the flavor of urban legend, tinged with the paranoia and fear that always accompanies lost places. But the fact remains. Something happened in Jefferson County, a convergence of disaster, secrecy, and official indifference that led to its complete erasure from public memory. And what about the towns themselves? Records recovered from out-of-state archives give us glimpses of life in these vanished communities. In the town of Milford, the local paper proudly reported on the opening of a new school in 1895. In River Junction, a flood in 1899 washed away half the main street, but townsfolk rebuilt, undeterred. In Oak Hollow, a notorious outlaw gang was finally captured after a 4-day standoff with the sheriff and his posse. These stories, scattered like breadcrumbs, are all that remain of places that once teemed with life. Today, all that's left are faded photographs, broken dishes in the dirt, and family stories passed down in whispers. Why does this matter? Because history isn't just about what survives. It's also about what gets lost, hidden, or erased. The story of Jefferson County is a warning that the past is not fixed, but fragile, always at risk of being rewritten or forgotten. When counties vanish, so do the lives, dreams, and struggles of the people who built them. And the forces that drove them out, greed, power, secrecy, are still at work today, shaping the history we remember and the histories we're allowed to forget. It's easy to imagine that what happened to Jefferson County is just a quirk of the past, something that couldn't happen in the age of the internet and digital records. But history tells us otherwise. Every year, towns disappear, records are lost, and stories are silenced, sometimes by accident, sometimes by design. The lesson of America's lost counties is clear. If we don't actively remember, we risk losing not just the facts, but the meaning of what came before. So the next time you drive through a stretch of empty farmland, or spot an old, crumbling sign by the side of the road, ask yourself, what was here before? Who lived, loved, and lost in these forgotten places? And how many more lost counties are waiting to be uncovered, their secrets buried just beneath the surface, waiting for someone curious enough, someone like you, to ask the right questions? If you found this story as fascinating and haunting as I did, don't forget to subscribe to History Owl for more deep dives into the secrets, mysteries, and forgotten corners of our past. Leave a comment if you know of another vanished place, or if you have family stories of lost towns and counties. History is full of mysteries. Let's uncover them together. Thanks for watching, and keep searching for the stories that refuse to stay buried.